I sort of feel a bit, well, honoured to be asked to do this session, but also slightly nervous, because it seems to suggest that I've got answers that, that perhaps the rest of you haven't or something, which is absolutely not true. This is a phenomenally difficult area to work in, and I definitely don't have answers. I think I'm groping my way towards some, but I'm not there yet. One of the really great things about coming to events like today is that you meet a whole bunch of people who are all in the same boat as you. One, it makes you feel a bit less lonely, which is very nice. The other thing is it does allow you to really think about what you're doing, and you know the strategy that you've set for yourself, that you're kind of very fixed, this is the right approach. Suddenly you start hearing some interesting ideas about maybe there's a different way. So it's really stimulating to hear what people have got to say. So what I thought I'd do, rather than show you my lovely pictures, is paint my own picture for you of me and my life and the challenges that I faced in coming to the job that I'm in now. Most of those challenges are still exactly the same challenges today as they were almost exactly 2 years ago when I arrived in Tesco to do this job, to be faced with quite a big challenge. Those of you who know Tesco will know that we have a lovely head office. It's a really delightful 70s block, bit of a Lubyanka, in an industrial estate in Cheshunt, sort of on the outer reaches of North London, just beyond the M25. It's very grey, it's very functional, it's not really a sort of lovely surroundings. It's also full of really very functional and boring offices. So I arrived here in my little office a couple of years ago, and there was a nice person sat outside my desk, outside my office, who worked for me. He'd arrived a month before me, and I didn't really know anything about what he was supposed to be doing very much. But we'd, as a business, we'd just set ourselves this target. We said, we're going to reduce the emissions, the carbon emissions from the products we sell by 30% by 2020. Fantastic. It had gone down really well. Terry Lee had stood up at a conference, load of his peers around him, marvellous, great Tesco leadership, isn't that fantastic? So I arrived in the business and said, great, so, you know, where's the plan for doing this? Ah, yeah, that's my job. So I was the one who sort of had to turn this great objective into a plan and a reality. Work in progress, that's always my, my catchphrase, work in progress. What were the challenges then, and what are the challenges today? And why is it that I think that collaboration's a really important way to address them? Because I genuinely believe in collaboration. I think a lot of people give lip service to it, but this seems to me to be a peculiarly important area to collaborate with people on. My first challenge was just understanding what the problem was, actually, and the challenge, the size of the issue. I arrived to find a sort of really interesting bit of work by some great consultants who we spend a lot of money with and a lot of time with ERM. They'd done something called input-output analysis, which for any of you who've seen is sort of great, but it's a bit sort of head-banging. It takes lots of general numbers out of the economy and, I don't know, put some sort of carbon emission factor about it, around it, and then you get an answer that says, this is what your carbon footprint looks like. And I was presented with this number that said that my supply chain carbon footprint in the UK for all the products we sell was about, I don't know, it was 24 million tonnes of carbon or something. I thought, great, it's a fact. I've got a fact I can hang on to. This is really good. And then I started asking some questions about input-output analysis and what it told you, and I worked out it didn't tell you anything, actually. So that wasn't a very good place to start. What did I need to do, and the thing that we've started to do, is to try and get under the skin a bit more of what our supply chain really looks like. I mentioned earlier the 70,000 lines that we sell in an extra store. That's an awful lot of products. We had some really great information on some products where we've done some life cycle analysis and carbon footprinting. Really good route into sort of understanding the supply chain. Equally, I've got 69,000 lines that I haven't done any footprinting on at the moment, and I've got a lot of work to do. So why does collaboration make a difference? Well, I know that there are an enormous number of people who are in my supply chain, whether they're branded suppliers or whether they're our own brand suppliers, who've done their own life cycle analysis. They've gone away and looked at their product, they've started looking at the way they produce and the areas that they're producing carbon or some of their other sustainability impacts in real detail. If I can have the right conversation with those suppliers, we can begin to share a bit of information. I'll learn a bit more about my supply chain, and they'll show me that they're kind of serious about addressing this issue. So we've begun to do that, we've begun to start sharing information. It's a bit difficult, you know, let's be honest. Supplier doesn't always want to tell me exactly what their life cycle looks like, because there's some quite sensitive information in there about their energy use, can directly turn that into cost issues. So you've got to be a bit careful, you've got to have some ground rules, but that's fine. You know, you just set those up at the beginning and you say, these are the things we're going to share and these aren't the things that and these are the things we're not going to share. So that really helps, because you begin to build your knowledge base. And some great management guru somewhere said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So that's always my starting point, you've got to be able to measure. The other challenge, one of the other challenges that I found was I got absolutely inundated, I'm sure this happens to all of you, by emails and phone calls from people who said, I've got just the right service for you, I've got the right product, I can come in, I can solve all your problems. And I'd sit there on the end of the phone going, uh-oh, don't have the faintest idea whether they're kind of kosher or whether these are real shysters. How do I know they are the right people to talk to? And, you know, there are some great people out there who can help you make your business better. But one of the challenges that you get is that a lot of people come to you with really generic solutions. You know, it's such high-level advice that I then went, you know, I did a bit of this. I sort of got some advice from some consultants and got them to do some high-level analysis of some of our biggest selling products. I then took it to my commercial teams, who just tore it to shreds. I mean, they said, look, these people don't understand the supply chain. They don't understand who we're buying from, what the supply chain routes are, how the distribution system works. And I just thought, oh no, this is terrible. How am I going to get through this? So the thing that I really learned was you can get advice from outside, and you can find some really great experts who do understand carbon well, but you need to map it with the people in your own organisation who understand really what you do as a business, so that you get beyond that sort of classic generic stuff. That also then goes for talking to your suppliers, because, you know, even more than my own commercial teams, suppliers definitely know their own business. And so some of the things we've done is put together little sort of work groups, really, of getting our big suppliers or our suppliers in a particular category together with the buying team, with a carbon expert, and you basically put all the ideas on a table like this, and you work it through and you work out what actually makes a difference and what doesn't, and you soon shed the sort of mad stuff or the things that are just too generic. Customers. Customers are really important. Some of the life cycle analysis stuff we've done tells us that you know, really large parts of the impact of a product are in the end use phase. So laundry is the great one. Anybody here from a laundry company will know this is all about hot water, bin washing machines and all that kind of thing. What can, you know, they can innovate. These firms can innovate. They can do sort of micro versions of products. They can change the formulation. You know, you can put in new chemicals or whatever. But actually, the reality of changing the carbon footprint of that product is about getting customers to do things differently. And I could communicate about it on the shelf edge with a nice sort of thing in the store. I could put something on the bottle. Actually, I could put something on our bottles on own brand, but I couldn't put it on branded. But what we have done quite successfully is do some sort of common work. So we've linked up in separate occasions with Unilever and with P&G to do customer communication. What's the value of that? The customer gets a really clear, simple message. You know, if it's dirty, wash at 30. I like that one, that's quite good, whoever thought that. It's the clear and simple message that people take into the home with them, and they don't just hear it from me, from the retailer, they hear it from the retailer and the manufacturer, and it kind of gets reinforced. It's great, you get more bang for your buck when you work with somebody else to deliver. There are some problems that are, you know, even too big for Tesco, I say, and we are a big company and we've got big reach. So I talked a bit earlier about refrigeration. One of the big problems we found on refrigeration, which is a really important issue for us as a retailer and will be for some of you as well, there was this sort of desire in the grocery industry to find a different way of refrigerating our product and to find alternatives to HFCs, which, you know, none of us liked using. We knew it was a really bad thing to use. But interestingly, the natural refrigeration supply chain, all those people in the business who were trying to do this step change, were really nervous that, you know, we were just saying these things about wanting to change, but we weren't really going to do it. And were the orders coming? And were they confident that this was going to happen? Now, what we did, we worked through an organisation called the Consumer Goods Forum, which some of you will know, 350 of the world's biggest consumer goods companies. And we together made this sort of commitment, this general declaration that actually we want to start in all of our operations in introducing or installing only natural refrigeration from 2015. It's actually an unbelievably scary date. But the idea was to give confidence to that supply industry that they could invest to grow and invest to supply us ultimately more cheaply with the product that we want. And that's had a good effect. It's been a good way of working with the supply chain in a good collaborative way. So my other challenge is just that it's sort of a bit enormous, really. And I sit in my office, and I have a much bigger team, by the way. By Tesco standards, I have an enormous team, which is great. But it still feels like there's an enormous amount of work to do to convert, you know, great ideas and principles. And when I hear what people are saying today, you know, loads of will to change, but how do you really turn that into new investments that our suppliers are making, new investments that we're making, changes to processes, you know, really big sort of operational changes to deliver all of this. And the really big value that I see in collaborating is that it gives me the ability to be a magpie. You know, I can find out what other people are up to, and I can see what works, and I can pick up on it very quickly. So I can learn from other people, and I have, you know, a lot of conversations with our suppliers, and sometimes, you know, they're the hugest. We've got Coca-Cola in the room today, and, you know, they're pretty big. They've got great ideas, but I've also got people who are, you know, not enormous global companies. They are local suppliers, they're produce suppliers. They've made some amazing investment that, you know, to be honest, is a pretty scary thing for a small company to do, and it's really paid off. I can take that stuff back into my business and back to my suppliers and say, you know, be brave. Here's somebody who's done something, who's changed something, and can make a difference. So, all of those challenges are still there, and I'm not sure I know exactly what the pathway between here and 2020 looks like. All I know is that I'm only going to get there if I work with other people, if I'm open to sharing the things that I know about, as far as I can, within the bounds of, you know, commercial confidentiality, and if other people are open to share with me. And that's a new way of working, and it's a challenge, but it's something that I encourage everybody to try and do. The benefit of collaboration for me is that we'll all just learn and do things much more quickly than we would on our own. If you left me in my office to meet my target by 2020 on my own, I know I'd fail. So I need everybody in my supply chain working together to do it, and I suspect you're all in the same boat as well. So I think this is a great event because it gives me lots of ideas. I'm going to magpie lots of things I've heard today, but I would encourage everybody to get out there and really, you know, change the way you work with your supply chain, because it can make a huge difference.